The Supreme Court overturns its precedents rather less often than is thought. And that's been especially true of the Roberts Court. Although in the last term, the court overturned 3 of its precedents, which was quite rare for that court. It did so in the Janus v. AFSCME case when it overturned the Abood decision. It did so in the Wayfair case, which involved the taxation of internet sales by out-of-state vendors, which overturned the Quill case. And it did so implicitly, at least, in Trump v. Hawaii, in which the court found that the infamous Karamatsu case was no longer good law. But again, this is an exception where 3 cases in one term resulted in overturning prior precedents. In constitutional law, it is generally held that if a case has been wrongly decided in the past, according to a proper reading of the Constitution, it is subject to being overruled. Circumstances do change, and you may need to change the law in light of that. Moreover, we may find that a prior precedent has proven to be unworkable. And a final reason for ignoring stare decisis, of course, is that the court may have gotten the precedent wrong from a consideration of simple justice. Accordingly, stare decisis enjoys less currency in constitutional law than it does in common law. Nevertheless, we do have some landmark cases in which stare decisis was not upheld. And of course, the most common one that is cited is Brown v. Board of Education in 1954, which overturned Plessy v. Ferguson from 1896. And there, it took almost 60 years for the court to do so. Plessy v. Ferguson upheld the separate but equal principle with respect to seating on railroad trains. The Brown v. Board of Education was different in that it applied to public schools. Nevertheless, the principles were still the same, so in that respect, both cases were on all fours. And what you had in Brown v. Board of Education was, at last, addressing the unfinished business from the Civil War amendments, namely righting the wrongs that had arisen under Jim Crow in the South. Continuity of law is important for the integrity of the law and for consistency and predictability. Without it, we wouldn't know whether what we were doing was legal or illegal. Stare decisis limits the scope of judicial review in the sense that it prohibits judges from imposing their own personal values on the case at hand and requires them to decide the case, if it is on point with precedents, according to those precedents. Now, you will still have cases coming before the court that are cases of first impression. But once that case is decided, it then becomes a precedent for future similar cases. And that gives us the rule of law. It gives us stability, predictability, and notice as to what the law is.